5. Please note that the session is being linked to Facebook, and so do unmute your speakers and turn it on if you would like to talk or make some contributions. Other than that, please make sure your speakers are on mute so that we don't interrupt the sessions. There'll be Q&A time after the session, and if you want to ask any questions, please reserve it, if possible, till we get to the end of the session. And thank you so much. It's going to be a very interactive session, and I expect you all to be able to contribute and engage with the sessions, make contributions, share your views, and let's have a good afternoon together. Thank you. Next slide, Samson, please. Samson, next slide, please. Thank you.
I did, yeah. Mary, internet.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so AFRUCA, who are we? AFRUCA is a national charity that promotes the well-being of children in BME communities. And as part of the work we do at AFRUCA, we do have 5 key areas of work. Our first area of work is raising awareness. And within this section, we raise awareness within Black and African communities and among young Africans about children's rights, as it's enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and other international conventions and the UK legislations promoting the rights and welfare of our children. Then we have the information, education, and advisory services. This is to raise the profile of Black and African children in the UK, to increase awareness of their needs, improve policies and practices, and develop the leadership potential of young Africans. Activities include research and publishing reports, media work, conferences, seminars and workshops, and training programs for parents, policymakers, service providers, faith and community group leaders, young people, community meetings, advisors, and consultative services. We also have advocacy and policy development. And in this, we work closely with policymakers to shape and develop the development of policy and regulatory actions to promote the welfare of families and children. We also do community and international development work. This is in partnership with others to put in place the programs and projects to help relieve the sufferings and hardship that Black and African children and their families experience. We support children, young people, and families by providing provisions of practical and therapeutic support to children, young people, and their families in crisis or at the point of breakdown through the effective early intervention services. Our therapeutic services provide a confidential space to explore thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and experiences through a one-to-one cycle, educational group, or group therapy to those who have been affected by abuse, trafficking, or FGM. Next slide, please. We are going to look at parenting then. When I say then, that means the past and now, the future, now to present and our future. So when we look at parenting then, I'm going to open this to the floor and I would like people to make their contributions. How was parenting in the past, maybe then during the era when of your parents, how were people being parented? And how is it being done today, now? Any contributions, please unmute yourself if you want to contribute or say something, or use the chat box to make a contribution, please. Hello. Hello. Okay, so maybe I will just start the ball rolling, and then if you have any contributions to make, please feel free, just raise your hands or just let me know, and then just add to what would be said. Parenting then, in the past, I think it was more of being physically abusing children, chastising them, shouting at them. But now I would say most parents rather talk to children. They communicate more with children. They do advise children more rather than shouting, smacking, shouting, and telling them off. Parents rather now talk with the children for children to understand, have a good understanding of what the parent wants from them. You know, when children do something that is not right, and instead of letting the child know what is right from wrong, you just smack the child or you beat the child. It doesn't correct the mistake because the child would not know the right thing to do next time. So when you communicate with a child in a positive way, you give the child the opportunity to understand the difference between the wrong that the child has done and what you expect of the child. That is the right thing. So now more parents are rather communicating with their children. They are talking with their children. They are liaising. They are agreeing with the children. And it makes parenting more easier. And it makes parenting more friendly. And children are able to bond more with their parents because they feel like they are not being shunned away from their parents. They are being welcomed by their parents. The parents would embrace whatever views they have. Whereas in the past, you dare not stand in front of your dad and say a thing. If he says this, that is what goes. You have to listen to your parents. Do as you are told. That is it. And I remember in the past, my mom used to say, obey before complain. That means that just do as you are told. You listen and you do as you are told before you can even say anything. They want you to respect what they've told you, which doesn't work these days because these days, our children, we are in a new era, a new generation. And sometimes by the time you, the parent, would have finished saying one thing, the child would have said 3 or 10 things. So it's very good that we learn to communicate well with our children, listen to them so that you'll be able to help them to achieve better. Next slide, please. If you look at the child protection statistics at a glance, this slide is a bit old because it's from 2011, the census, but we've had the recent census that was done this year. So this would need to be updated. But when you still look at these figures at a glance, you can tell that out of the population in England, 3.5% are Blacks, and they are under the child protection statistics, which is alarming. 3.5% are Blacks. And when you look at the population again, look at the other ones, like the assessment in March 2015, 7.2% is the statistics of Blacks who are on this assessment record. So I think what really needs doing is we want to raise more awareness about how we can safeguard our children so that this statistics that is shown here would reduce. We'll have less Black children being represented on the statistics. We have less children in care, less children being put on statistics because when it becomes like a stigma, children, our Black children would be at risk. And this is really affecting the Black community. So we want to do our best to try and ensure that less of the Black children, less of our children are put on the Black or on the list of Black children be in child protection statistics. Thank you. Next slide, please. Reasons, we're looking at the reasons children go into care. There are several reasons that most of our children are being put into care. They go into foster placement, they are removed for the care of their parents, and they are being taken care of by other people who are not maybe family related. And these are due to, when you look on the screen, you can see there are 8 different factors, but these are just a few. There are other several factors that lead to children being led into care. But then the worst and the greater ones is abuse and neglect, abuse of our children and neglect. And I think the reason why abuse and neglect is significant, is high, 62%, is because of how we, the parents of the past, how we were parented by our parents, how we were brought up. You know, when you bring up a child and the child gets to know that when I do something wrong, all I get is a smack or I'll be abused. That is what I know is the correction for being naughty. So for me, smacking and abusing a child, they relate it to discipline, which in actual fact is wrong. It's punishing the child. But because that is what you are used to and that is what you know, you intend use the same method to bring up your children. So you now also start abusing your children. You start neglecting them and you start taking advantage of them, which is wrong. So we have to know better so that the way we were brought up, abusing and then being neglected, we don't pass that on to our children. We make sure that we do what is best for our children so that our children are not removed from our care into foster care. 15% is family dysfunction. It's just too much. And this family dysfunction could be probably breakdown in marriage due to separation, maybe one parent is absent, anything can be part of that. Then we have families in acute stress. Stress, maybe some parents are doing 2, 3 jobs, and it's so stressful, especially when you have more than one child and you have to divide your time and attention between your job and between the family, the children. You need to go to work, come back from work, and still be a parent to take care of the child or the children that you have. And this can be very stressful and it leads to this family in acute stress. Then we have absent parenting. Parents have to go away from work. Maybe some parents travel and their job is not done locally. So they have to be away for work for months before they will come back, leaving the child with just one parent. And sometimes it could be due to illness. This is something we can't help, but that also impacts on our parenting and leads children to be removed from the parents into care. And then maybe a child has a disability and the parent is not able to take care of the child with the disability. The parent becomes so tired and needs some support to be able to care for that child because of the child's disability. And socially unacceptable behavior. When there's peer pressure and the children are copying and imitating, doing things their peers are doing, it also affects and leads children to be taken into care. And then low income. Yeah, low income, where maybe the parent is on the minimum wage. If you have maybe 4 or 5 children and you are earning the minimum wage, you probably find it difficult to meet all the children's needs. Needs are essentials that children should have, but because you can't afford it, it leads to children being neglected and put into care. Next slide, please. Thank you. Then we look at the, number of people in the UK and the children in care. When you look at the number of people in the UK, that is shaded in gray. And then the one in the wine color sort of is children in care. So when we look at the white population, it's 85% of people who are in the white population, and 78% of their children are in care. And then you look at the mixed race, could be mixed anything. They said it's 2%. But the children in care within that mixed race, it's even more than the 2%, 9% of that. That is very, very much. And then you look at the Asians and then British, when you have 8% of them, and out of that, half of them, their children are in care. And then the Black and Black British children, just 3% of us, but more than that, more than double that, 7% of our children are in care. And then the other ethnic groups is 2% and 2% in care. But the one that is really concerning and very alarming is the Black and Black British children. Our children are very largely represented in the care system, and more needs to be done to protect these children so that the number of Black children put in care would reduce. That's why AFRUCA is very much concerned about safeguarding children. And we want to help children, because if you are aware and you know what to do to safeguard your child will not be removed from your care. Your child remains in your care. Even if you need that support to take care of the child, the local authority assists you while the children are still in your care to take care of them, rather than removing them from your care and placing them in care. Thank you, Samson. Next slide, please. These are some national figures, and this shows that they said 71% of children in custody have either been involved with social services or in care before entering into custody. This is very alarming. 71% of children in custody have either, so they've been passed through the local authorities' care before entering into custody. That means that maybe it has been ongoing, because custody is the last result for them, when they have done what they can do, their best for the child, and nothing seems to be working. Parents have failed the children, and the local authority probably have also failed the child. So the end result is to be placed, they go into custody. And beneath is the cost of keeping a child in care. Official figure puts the cost of keeping a child in care home to 2,600 to 3,000 per week, which is a lot of money. And I'm sure this is more than 3,000 now, because the child's personal care is taking care of, the accommodation, the feeding, daily living, recreational thing, anything the child needs, it's all included. And even for payment for the one taking care of the child while they are in care, it's like paying the wage for the foster parent. So for now, this figure exceeds the 3,000. And whereas if the child was still in the care of the parents, I don't think parents, we do spend that much on a child per week. We don't even earn that much per month, let alone to spend that much per week on a child. So please, let's do more to be able to take care of our children so that they remain in our care, so that we can save that money and not just let it go down the drain. Black and mixed race children are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, with more custodial sentences than other ethnic backgrounds. A lot of our Black children and mixed race children are overrepresented, which is very concerning. And this is because of how we safeguard our children, how we bring them up, what we do with them. Let's say, for instance, your child starts going out with friends who are influencing your child. It's like peer pressure, their drug, alcohol, or maybe knife crime. And as a parent, you get to hear of this. And sometimes, instead of the parent calling the child and talking to the child, come to, you compromise with the child, talk to the child and let the child understand you. We rather smack that child, we shout at the child, we provoke the child. And what the child does next is they go back to their peers for their advice. They go back and tell them, look, you know what? My mom said that I've been going out doing this and doing that. So now when I go home, I get shouted at by my mom, by my dad. My mom abused me, my dad abused me. They tell me off, they are doing this. So I'm going to just stick to your advice and baby join the gang, do what I want to do, which is really very, very bad. You don't make the child feel welcome at home. I always tell my parents this, that the force outside in the society, we have the majority there. And the force from outside is greater because it's majority. But within the home is small and it's the minority group. The family is a minority. So the impact and the force from within the home is smaller. So if you, the parent, mom and dad, you are not able to make a great impact on that child, the force from outside the society, which is greater, would impact greatly on your child because you are not doing enough. To be able to combat the greater force from outside, you need to do double. You need to make sure that you are there for your children. Talk to them. When they come back from school, find out how was your day? What did you do? What did you like? When they go out with their peers, their friends, where did you go? Who did you meet? What did you go to do? Some parents are too busy and we do not ask our children any of these things. This leads them to join their mates because their mates are ready to listen to them. We should learn to give them a listening ear, communicate with them, have time for them, and that will help you to keep them closer to you. If not, the force from the majority, which is the society outside, would have a greater impact on your child because within the family is a minority group and the force from minority group will be defeated from the greater force outside. Thank you. Next slide, please. So why do people abuse children? I want Samson, leave this on for a while and let's get people to contribute. Why do you think parents, adults abuse children? So many things, so many factors lead to children being abused. Any contributions, please? Any contributions why we abuse our children? Can anybody make a contribution? Yes, Betty, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Abusing our children, we African parents, sometimes we abuse our children without noticing that it is an abuse because of the way we were brought up.
That's it. You're right.
That we also want to bring our children up like that way, which is not acceptable here. So in that sense, it is an abuse for the children. So most parents don't realize that, oh, I am abusing my child, but the child knows that my mom or my dad is abusing me. This is an abuse.
Yeah.
So by the time we realize to correct it, you are already in trouble.
Yeah. You're right. So like Betty rightly said, sometimes we do it without knowing we are abusing the children because you were brought up that way. So you think, oh, it's right. My mom or my dad used to do that to me. So you don't see anything wrong with it. So you intend to do the same to your children, whereas it's wrong. It's an abuse. So we have to know. That's why it's good to understand these things so that you know that there are certain practices that when practiced here, it's seen as an abuse and they are abused. Whereas back home in Africa, you would do that and practice those same things there, but it's not seen as an abuse because they don't take much consideration about safeguarding children. But here, the welfare of the child is paramount and people are very concerned about safeguarding children. So they make sure that what it's not good for the child, it's not done to the child. So yes, the way we were brought up make us feel that it's right. It was done to us, so we can also pass the same thing on to our children, but that's not right. Thank you very much, Betty. Yeah, I think, Tammy Toya, you've got your hands up. Do you want to say something or add, please?
Yes, Miss. I was thinking of what you've just said, like about the safeguarding thing, and then what came to my mind was like the basic human right law, also will be violated when or if we abuse our, child, if we abuse our children, then we will be violating their human rights because first of all, what we need to understand is that they are a person, they are humans like us, our children are humans, so they have to be protected, rights to their their sense of being also. So basically, like using force or coercion or like smacking, things like that, go against those rights of they being themselves. And most of all, I think people in Africa, because they treat their children as property. Even here, some people say they treat them as property instead of treating them as individuals.
You're right.
We need to think of them as humans first off, and then I think everything will be made easy, because then you see that, okay, this is an individual I need to respect, mutual respect. Okay, do I like to be treated this way? No. So why will I treat somebody who is relying on me, who is dependent on me, in a manner in which they don't agree with? So things like that also.
Thank you very much, Tammy Toya. That's very good. Yeah, so we need to remember that our children, they are individuals and there are laws governing every one of them. Each of them, they have laws that they have their own human rights laws that we need to respect. And when we respect that and treat them as individuals, we will make sure that we are not abusing them, because you take them for granted and think that they are your properties. He's my child, she's my child, I can do what I like to her, forgetting that they are individuals and need to be respected as such. So we shouldn't take advantage of them and abuse them because we think they are our children. Thank you very much, Tammy Toya. So yeah, any more contributions, please? This is open. I want a lot of people to contribute. So,
hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, Ibrahim, thank you. Thank you. We've got another social worker here, Ibrahim. Thank you very much.
No, that's all.
Yeah.
Yes, just a few pointers there. Obviously, I believe another big problem we face, especially us Africans here, is distinguishing between the difference between punishment and discipline. That we find very difficult because obviously discipline is sitting the child down, telling him or her what's wrong, what's right, and how they should do to address the problem. And the first thing that comes out from us is lashing out, and we say that telling the child why they have done something or why they shouldn't do it, and if they do at all, they have to do it next time, how they should do it properly without getting it wrong. Even us as individuals, we do make mistakes every single day, but we don't get punished for that.
Yeah.
obviously, there's there are rules, laws to follow that, but will not get punished for that. Assuming that if, like, for every mistake we make, the law comes very hard on us. How would us as individuals, take that? Obviously, it's going to be a big ask. Obviously, it should be something that we should reflect to our children. Like, patiently, we should speak to our children, explain to them exactly what they have done wrong, why it is, and how they should do, or what they should do to address the problem, rather than lashing out on them. I think that's another big problem. And also, one other problem I believe is also having this conflicting views that these kids are born here. We should try and raise them according to culture or the system here, not having a child here. And yes, you try to raise them as if you're in Africa. You're getting them more confused.
Yeah.
You're getting them more confused. I think I've said a lot. Thank you very much for giving me the platform.
Thank you, Mr. Cisse. Thank you so much. You have really proved that you are a social worker. Good. Yeah, just point on. Sometimes we parents, we forget, and we do not even, not that we forget at times, but we do not know the difference between discipline and punishment. What does discipline does to the child? Discipline corrects the wrong error of the child. Discipline teaches the child. Discipline helps you to make the child to understand. Discipline guides the child. But instead of disciplining the child, we use punishment, whereas punishment inflicts pain on the child. Punishment does not correct the wrong. Punishment does not correct the mistake. Punishment does not guide the child. And that is what we rather use. We bring the children up, like Mr. Cisse just said, as if we are back home in Africa, the way we were brought up, harshly, treat them as if we were living back home in Africa. We do not look at the system and see this is what the system here demands. This is what is expected of us while we are in this system. Follow the system and do what the safeguarding law in the system requires. By so doing, you wouldn't be abusing your children. Thank you very, very much, Ibrahim. That was spot on. Thank you. So any more contributions, please? The floor is still opened. The floor is opened. Any more? If not, can we go on to the next slide, please, Samson? Thank you. So we look at adverse childhood experiences, and this adverse childhood experiences is the term used to describe traumatic experiences before age 18. That means from when you are born up to you get to 17 towards before you reach your 18th birthday. And it leads to negative long life, emotional and physical outcome. Why do you think this leads to negative long life, emotional and physical outcome? Because of the trauma you have been through, all the negative abuse and things you have experienced. It has accumulated from over the years. And for you to overcome these things, it takes a while. That is why they said long life. It's the duration, it's massive. So imagine if you were born from a very early age, your parents start smacking you, shouting at you, telling you off. You live in fear. You've grown up in fear. And even when any adult is talking to you, you have that fear when you do something wrong. You have within you that fear that maybe you are going to be told off for doing something wrong, or they are going to smack you again or shout at you, because you are living in fear, and within you, you are not free. Emotionally, it's damaging to the child. It's hurting. The worst abuse that most parents do not know is the emotional abuse, because this is something you don't physically see inside what is happening to the child, and inwardly it leads the children to be depressed. And a lot of people get depression, the anxiety, this, and in the end, you see, when they grow up, they'll be on medication, and they will never go off those medication because they have lived with this adverse childhood experiences, and they never had any therapeutic treatment or therapy to for them to be able to relieve all these things. So it affects them emotionally and it harms them. So we have to be very, very mindful and think of the long-term effects the things we are doing to our children today would have on them. So if you don't want your children to grow up and become adults and in future spend the rest of their lives living on medication because of the impact of adverse childhood experience on them, please, we need to know that we have to stop abusing our children. We have to stop making them feel they are not valued, because each child must be treated independently, individually, and with respect, love, and affection. If you treat your children with love, respect, and affection, emotionally, you are building their emotional well-being. And this child grows up to be a very successful, lovely, nice, bubbly child. And these are just simple things, little things you need to do, yet we don't do them. Thank you. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, these are the abuse, the forms of abuse that we have. And it's obvious, you can see them. We have the emotional, sexual, verbal, and then neglect, physical and emotional abuse. So growing up in a household where there are adults with alcohol and drug use problems, it does impact on the child, because we, the adults, we, the parents in the home, we are supposed to be good role models for our children. So what are we depicting? What are we exhibiting for these children to see and learn from? You sitting around the decks with them, drinking alcohol and drug and smoking, is that what you want to teach them? They are adults with mental health problems. These are problems that is not the making or doing of the adults, and children live with such things, and it does impact on the children's well-being. There are homes where there's domestic violence. Mom and dad, the adults are arguing, fighting, quarreling, misunderstanding, and children are seeing this every day. They live by this. They witness it. They are hearing it. And it does have negative impacts on our children if they see these things. You might think, oh, the child is not part of it, or he's not present. But even by hearing it in the next room, hearing mom, dad shouting or hitting or beating mom, it affects them. Because some children are so attached to one parent, and if they see the other parent beating the other or shouting at the other, they feel helpless. They, oh, mommy, what can I do for you? Mommy, are you all right? You fine? It worries them and they get confused. So please, let's be very mindful of these things. There are adults who have spent time in prison and they've been away from their children for so long. When they come back, have their attitude and behavior towards the child change, it impacts on the children. Separation does also impact on our children. Sometimes there are others, they say poverty, bereavement, neighborhood violence. When you are poor, you don't have the means to be able to meet the child's needs. It impacts on them. Let's say, for instance, very soon the weather is going to be changing. It's going to be winter. Maybe the child hasn't got a new winter coat. The old coat that they were using from 2 years ago is what they still have. And it's now going to be too small or tight for them. They might need a new winter coat, and probably because you don't have the money, you cannot afford a new winter coat. So when it's cold and they are going to school, your child will still be wearing the small coat, the arms, the sleeve up to here, it's up to here, and you see them. And sometimes, other children laugh at our children when we don't dress them properly. It's cold and you see a child with no gloves. It's in winter, they are going, and then they'll stuck all their hands in their pocket because they don't have gloves to wear. They are feeling the cold like that. They don't have appropriate footwear. Their shoes are open, the mouth, you can see, they will step in the mud and their shoes are like that. So please, it's very important. It's a family pressure, poverty, frustration, a lot of things lead to trigger abuse. misinterpretation of the Holy Scripture, where sometimes they say you spare the rod and you spoil the child. We don't understand it. So we are thinking if we spare the rod, that means we will spoil the children. So we better use the rod. Let's smack them so that we give them good strict discipline, which is wrong. Balancing two cultures and belief. You know, most of us parents, the Africans here, most of us were not born here. We probably came here and we've come here with our culture, our own values and beliefs. Whereas some of these cultures and beliefs that we practice back home in Africa, when we practice it here, it's an abuse. It's not right. Yet, because it's part of our culture and it is our value and our belief, we feel that it is right and we want to do it here. But the system says, no, this is different. You can't do this in the UK because we are living in a different country. To say, when in Rome, you do what the Romans do. So if you know that this system does not permit this and doesn't allow this, please, for heaven's sake, let's not do it, so that we know that we are doing what is expected of us and what is right for our children. Access to children in families by questionable people, where we, sometimes too many people coming into your home, in and out, and you don't know who is okay, who is safe when with your child. You don't know them very well. You just inviting them, they come along with friends, too many people. Some homes, I'm telling you, the children in some homes, they see so many different peoples, and we, the Black Africans mainly, every Black man or Black woman is auntie, uncle. And then you tell your child, this is Uncle so and so, this is Auntie Loretta, this is Auntie Alberta, this is Auntie Agnes, this is Auntie Vida. So everybody's auntie, uncle. So that's what they know. They know it's auntie, is uncle. So they'll call them auntie, uncle. But who that person, that auntie and that uncle really is, your child doesn't know. That person could be a pedophile, somebody who have been abusing children and have just come out of prison 2 years ago. And that person is someone whom you are inviting to your house. What do you think that person will do of your child when you are not there? You wouldn't know. And that person, your children could be at risk in the presence of such people. So we should be very mindful and very careful of the people we invite to our homes, so that we are not exposing our children to strangers who would take advantage of our children. Disregard for other people, including children, also leads to that. And then our I don't care attitudes, miscellaneous behavior, wickedness. Some people are just wicked. When they say somebody is very wicked, they are just wicked. And for that reason, they will just abuse children for the sake of that. Ignorance of the law. This is very, very important. Because most parents, we were not born here. We came from our own countries to this place. And because we don't know the safeguarding law in the UK, we just parent the way we were parented. The way back home in Africa, there's no safeguarding law in most places. So yeah, no law will come and tell you they are taking your child into foster placement or foster care. You beat them and you send your child to school and the child has been naughty, and you even tell the teacher, my child has done this, so you can smack my child. And the teacher would also smack your child for being naughty. Which teacher in the UK would do that in the school here? Never can they do that. So we have to be very mindful and careful of these things. And sometimes to parents, our parenting skills and illiteracy, we don't know. And that's why we have to know. In the UK, we are lucky that there's opportunity for adults to learn further their education, adult classes. You've got little things like even what AFRUCA does on the webinar, we do parenting sessions. These are opportunities for you to learn things that you don't know, awareness raising, for you to get a good understanding that, oh, really? So in the UK, this is how they parent. Oh, really? So here in the UK, you can't do that. This is what you need to do. Yeah, it's good and it helps you. You are enhancing your own parenting skills. But when you don't take advantage of such opportunities, you miss out on important things and it affects your parenting. It doesn't cost you anything to join a session like this once a week, every Saturday afternoon, 5:30. You are not paying for it, it's your time. And it is worth investing your time for the sake of your children. And I've seen parents who have been joining this session ever since we started, 55 weeks now, and they have always been joining this because they know how beneficial it is to them. They are learning so much and they share that information with others, and it is helping them to make sure that they are keeping their children safe. They don't want their children to be a target statistics for the child protection safeguarding people. No, I'm going to make sure my child is not on that list. I'm going to make sure my child is not removed from my care and placed in foster placement. I'm going to make sure I sacrifice and do my best to make sure that I spend at least an hour each day talking with my child, listening to my child, doing things with my child. I know it can be very demanding, but if you really care for your children as parents, an hour a day to do things with your child, I think would be good, because they need you. Much as your child wants to spend time with their friends, their peers, they need you as well, and we need to make sure we make time for them. The absence of support for ethnic minority groups. Yeah, we know there's lack of support for some of the parents, but then when the support is available, when there is the need and you make sure you have it, make the most of it. Thank you. Next slide, please. Life chances of children may be ruined. That is obvious. If the child is being negatively influenced by their peers, going outside and doing what they like, they are ruining their future. Their life will be obviously ruined. Poor outcomes, traumatic children with damaged futures. The outcome that we would get will be poor. That's how much is going to cost to the society. That children will be damaged for the future. We are not preparing any good future for our children. Family breakdown and separation, that is what would happen. They grow up and then not long, there will be breakdown in their family, breakdown their children. Children are displaced, they lose roots of things, community devastation and fragmentations. All these things are the cost that it gets to the society. Cycle of abuse become abusers. I was abused, so now I become the abuser. I will abuse my children, and then they would in turn be the abusers. They will be abusing their children. It carries on, never ending. That's what the society would have. It's high likelihood of underperformance in education. Their education will be affected. Exclusion leading to low productivity and unemployment in future. Yeah, because the system is not producing children who are capable of doing things. So there's underemployment. It affects everyone. Likelihood of antisocial behavior or engaging in crime and criminality, gang crime, knife crime, antisocial things, so many things, you name it, you know it, most of you know it. Our children now, they are being impacted by the society because the force in the society, like I said earlier, is greater force outside because it's the majority, and the home is minority, it's smaller force. So you need to do more. You need to double your efforts to make sure the greater impact from outside does not supersede yours, so that when they come back to attack you, when they come back to make sure they are ruining the family, you are there steadfast with the child. You are spending time doing things for your children. If I ask you, some of you parents now, this summer holidays, children were home, how many of us made time to take children out, do this with them, spend time doing you leave them, some parents busy working, busy. You leave them with their game. They can be on their game, I'm telling you, on the social media, playing game and things, and they will be outside playing with strangers. People will be communicating with them without you knowing, telling them things that they can do under your roof, yet you think they are just playing games with them among themselves or with their peers, but they can be being groomed online. People are grooming them while they are stuck on that social media. So we have to make time for our children. It's really, really important. I'm talking from experience, not just as a professional, but I'm talking as a parent who have also got children and have brought my children up. If you make time for your children, I'm telling you, your children will know that you care for them. Even when they are out with their peers, with their friends, they want to get back home quickly. Oh, I need to go back home now because, you know, my mom will be expecting me. My mom said I should be home at this time, you know, because you've got boundaries in place. You set rules and they respect it because you respect them. And sometimes it's good when, you know, you agree with them. Okay, maybe my son will say, oh, mom, I want to go out to the park to go and play. So the child said, I want to be there with my friends for 2 hours. You have to come to a compromise. Maybe you tell your son, you say, oh, listen, John, 2 hours, I think is too long to be at the park with your friends. Okay, why don't you make it an hour and a half? So that is coming to a compromise. You agree. Then the child will say, okay, I'll be there for an hour and a half. Okay, agreed, thumbs up. All right, then I'll see you after an hour and a half. And your child has agreed with you that, yes, I will just be there for an hour and a half. So you see that when they are away, within that time, they are watching and they will quickly get back because they know you are expecting them. You know, one of my sons, the younger one, when he goes out, when he's out, and then I tell him, before he leaves the house, what time will you be back? And then he tells me, I'll be back at this time. So I'll say, why don't we make it this time? Then I would take 30 minutes off the time that he gives me. Then he said, oh, mom, that's not enough. Oh, it's only 40 minutes. Why don't, okay, let's make it 1 hour. I said, okay. When he's coming home and it's exactly the time he should be home, then he's ringing me, mom, I'm just 5 minutes away. Then he's running to get to the door within that time because he knows that when he comes inside after the time, he will be grounded. So he said, I'm just 5 minutes away from the house. I'm running, mom. So I'm just letting you know I'm on my way. And it's so nice to know that he cares and he's taking what I said into consideration and he's made some effort, you know. And then when he's right at the gate, he said, oh, I'm at the gate. I've reached home now. So you can't count that as late, mom. I'm at the gate. And it's just nice because it shows that you respect his views. He's also respecting yours. And it's nice that we parents, we learn to do these things with them. When your child wants to spend some time out with their friends, and then you say, no, because you are mom, you are dad, the parents. So you do as I say, obey before complain. That's it. Next time when the child wants to go out, they won't even ask your permission. They've been nice by even asking and telling you, because you have said no today. Tomorrow, if I want to go out, I'm not going to even ask permission to go out and play with my friends or see my friends. I will just sneak out. And would you think that is better for them to just go without telling you where they are going? I think that's wrong. So we need to agree and disagree, come to a compromise with them so that when they say something, we agree together so that when they are doing it, they know that they are doing it with your agreement, with your consent, so that they won't come back and then you start shouting or telling them off. Thank you. Next slide, please. Good. So now, what is child abuse? Apart from this definition that you see on the screen, I want your contribution, anyone to add to what they think constitute child abuse. I need your contributions, please. We've still got our social worker, Ibrahim, online. Mr. Cisse, do you want to tell us what is child abuse, please? Hello.
Sorry, can I say it again?
I said we've got the definition for what child abuse is online, but can you add to this any definition you would want to add to what child abuse is for us, please? Any other thing that constitutes child abuse?
Honestly, I think you've covered most of it, honestly, because I saw a few slides that you showed both emotional, physical, some other forms of it. You covered most of it anyway. So
Okay.
I can't think of anything now, but if I do, at some point, I'll come back and let you know.
All right, thank you, Ibrahim. So when you see the definition on the slide says forms any form of maltreatment by inflicting harm or failing to act to prevent harm. When you fail to prevent harm, it's also an abuse. That means that you are aware that the child might be at risk of harm and you don't do anything to prevent it. So you've abused the child. Children may be abused by those who know them in a family setting or in an institution or community setting, or more rarely by a stranger. This means that mainly those who abuse children are within the family setting. Rarely do strangers abuse them. It's we who know our children better, we who know them more. The aunties and the uncles that are coming in and out every day, the moms and the dad, the parents the children are living with, we are the abusers. When, like this earlier slide, it said that the abuse becomes the abuser. I was abused, so now I'm also abusing my child. This is what happens. My mom abused me, my dad abused me. So right, yeah, I've also got children now, so yeah, I have to be abusing my children as well. And they would carry it on, which is wrong. Right, next slide, please. Thank you. The categories of child abuse. So these are the definitions for the various forms of abuse that we have. We look at physical, and it says hitting, shaking, throwing, poisoning, burning or scalding, drowning, suffocating, putting pepper in the eye or private parts is all under physical abuse. So don't think that because I just shook him, I only did him like that, I just shook him. It's an abuse. Physically, you've abused the child. You burn the child, you pour hot water on the child, scold the child, and putting pepper in the eye, the private part, which is practiced back home mainly in Africa. It's all physical abuse. Emotional. I said earlier on that emotional abuse is the worst abuse, is the most dangerous one, because this is an inward feeling. We do not see this. We don't know the extent of to which this has happened. So this leads people on lifetime medication. People grow up and they are now on prescribed medication. They'll be taking medication for the rest of their life because of anxiety problem, depression, all because of emotionally being abused when they were young. So emotional abuse means making a child feel worthless and unloved, verbally abusing or cursing a child, withholding love and affection from a child. You know, what will it cost you to just tell a child, oh, I love you, thank you, oh, you're nice, thank you. Nice little things that you can do to the child to boost their morale, just make them feel valued, make them feel content. Rather, we will be shouting, scolding, verbally telling them nasty things. You know, each child is specially made as an individual created in God's image. And who are we, the parents and adults, to abuse what God has created, God's handiwork? So you are telling God, God is not good enough. Look at your nose, this, excuse me. And we use nasty words. So are we perfect? And if we, it's so funny. I laugh at sometimes when I hear some of the things some parents will tell our children, and sometimes you finish in abusing your child and you even regret it. But the worst part is African parents, sometimes we feel too proud and pompous when we are in the wrong. We don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to acknowledge and tell our child, oh, I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for what I have done. No, we just brush it aside and carry on. But we are teaching children, they are our role model. And if we are in the wrong, we should have to let them know that we are in the wrong and apologize so that they would repeat that. Neglect, a persistent lack of proper care for a child in the form of food, clothing, shelter, medication, treatment, protection from harm. So any of these things is neglect. We shouldn't be neglecting our children. If you do that, it's a form of abuse. Sexual abuse, forcing a child to take part in sexual activities like kissing, touching their genitals or breast, having sexual intercourse with a child, rape or oral sex, involving children in looking at sexual images or videos. Oh, you say, oh, just touching is a sexual abuse. Yes, so long as you've touched the child, it's sexual abuse. You don't have to have intercourse with the child to say that you have sexually abused the child. You have kissed the child, inappropriate kissing. The child didn't give you the consent and you have done that. Are you the mom or dad? Why should you do that? It's an abuse. So we have to be mindful of the things we do to children, especially children who are not your children. Children who maybe you are just taking care of, and then you just take advantage of their vulnerability and sexually abuse them, which is wrong. Thank you very much, Samson. Next slide, please. Key UK laws on child protection. So on the scene, yeah, I've got hands up. Tammy, Toya, do you want to say, unmute yourself and then you can speak, please.
Hi, Miss. I was just going to say before the slide was changed to the next one. I was just going to say that.
Do you want Samson to put it back? That slide.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine because I'm on the list. I think the list of physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and I think there was one. So yeah, neglect.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that, like even adding to the list will be something like, verbal abuse, which can be on that, like psychological abuse, because we can say things, we don't necessarily have to do things or like leave marks.
Yeah.
Scathing or anything on a child, or or denying them something, say things like affection. However, like verbal talking down them and saying stuff has a lot to do with their psyche, which then in a long time cause a traumatizing damage. Or and then that's the point you get to where you start looking for things like, oh, they need therapy for this, they need therapy for that. However, we prevent that from happening instead of looking for a solution after the deed is done. So verbal abuse can do as much abuse as physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, or even sexual abuse.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your contribution. So like Tommy Toya just said, verbal abuse, it's also very damaging and can cause a lot of harm. Hello. Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go on, please.
Yeah, I thought I just want to update. Perhaps that's something that we have to think about now. Obviously, online as well. Online, there's a lot of online abuse. I know it's not on that slide. That will just move from now. There's not much of it there. Yeah, I think that needs to be updated. Online abuse.
Thank you very much,
now.
Yes. Yeah, we will add that. So thanks for that. That is true. Yeah. So due to because of this COVID that we had, the whole of a full academic year was wasted. Children had to stay home and they were learning from home. School would send work to children online. Children would do their tutorials and everything at home online and send it. And this same online, you have the cyber abuse, online abuse, the media, the social media. children will be home online and they'll be groomed by somebody somewhere else. It could be in another country. They'll be grooming your child online, abusing and taking advantage of your children. They will send and exchange pictures, naked pictures of themselves. They will say, do this, show me a picture. All these are abuse that goes on online. So yes, thank you very much, Ibrahim. We would update it and add that to it for future. Thank you. So the key UK laws on child protection. So on my screen, you can see we've got the Children and Young Persons Act 1933. We've got the Children's Act 1989, the Children's Act 2004, and the Children and Families Act 2014. These are the key laws on child protection. Next slide, please. Yeah. You know, the Children and Young Persons Act 1933 states that the law as it stands only seek to protect the very basic physical needs of children. Children's emotional and developmental needs are equally essential. Yet this law does not reflect this, but the law does not cover the emotional and developmental needs of the child. So because of that, next slide, please. The next, Thompson. Yes. Because of that, when we look at the Children's Act 2004, you see that that law has been amended to cover the previous one because that one is lacking some facts there. And then the Children's Act 1989, this provides the legal basis for protecting children from significant harm and providing service for children in need. So this law is divided into two separate acts. This Children's Act 1989, we've got the child in need, and then significant harm. Right, okay. We've got this slide, so I'll just carry on with this. Significant harm means any form of abuse, neglect, accident, or injury that is sufficiently serious to adversely affect progress and enjoyment of life for the child. Or when they say harm, it's defined as the ill treatment or impairment of physical, psychological, or intellectual health and development of the child. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the Children's Act 1989, like I was saying earlier, is divided into two sections. We've got the section 17, and then we've got section 47. The section 17 is what we call the children in need of service. When they say the child is in need of service, this means that the child is lacking basic things and the child still remains in the care of the parents. And then the local authority will support the family to ensure the parents are able to support the child, provided those needs are provided and met. Let's say, for instance, a parent has a child who has been identified as a child in need. So, and what is this child probably in need of? Maybe this child is just in need of how parents support the child at home, because they didn't find any evidence to say that, yes, the parents are spanking the child or the child is at significant harm to any risk or abuse. So they say, okay, we will send you to AFRUCA, where you can go and enhance your parenting skills to be able to support your child better, so that maybe when the child just starts crying, you know, some children, we call them cry babies. They cry over every little thing, the least thing. Even when you said, the mommy, I want this. And then you said, no, you've already had two, maybe yogurts today, that's enough. till tomorrow. You can't have a third one. They start crying. They cry over everything. They've worn their shoes wrong. They are going to school, and then the shoes, they put left shoe on the right feet, right shoe to the left feet. And then you say, come on, my dear, you've not worn your shoes properly. Can you swap it around? Put this right and wear this. The least is they are crying. They want this, they cry. Do this, they cry. So maybe it's not that maybe the child is just a cry baby. Maybe there are underlying issues that causes the child to be crying and crying over every little thing. So maybe when you come to AFRUCA, we will work with you, explain things to you, and maybe with time, you will be able to identify why the child cries over little issues, and then you amend your ways, your technique and strategies in supporting that child, and this would enhance the child's emotional well-being. So the next act under the same, the Children's Act 1989 is the section 47 of the Act. When this is section 47 of the Children's Act, that is significant harm. The child is seriously at risk of suffering significant harm when in your care. And mostly when children have been categorized under this section, the children are removed from the care of the parents by the local authority while investigation is being undertaken, and they make sure that it is safe for the child to return home before the child is returned to the care of the parents. Next slide, please. Then we have the Children's Act 2004. This strengthens the notion of child protection to encompass the much broader and wider concept of the safeguarding the well-being of children overall. So it's more in line with safeguarding the well-being of the child. You know, the child's well-being is paramount and it's very important. All this safeguarding we are talking of, the protection, the safety, everything we have been talking of, the abuse, it's all to do with the child's well-being. So long as we do the right thing, we will ensure their well-being is safe. So this Act, 2004 Children's Act, it stresses and emphasizes that well-being of the child. Next slide, please. Then we have the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And this is also under 2 articles, Article 19 and 20. And the Article 19 says the government should ensure that children are properly cared for and protected from violence, abuse, neglect by their parents or anyone else who look after them. That means that anybody who takes care of the child, including parents, maybe it could be those aunties and uncles who've been coming in and out, they must ensure they do take proper care and protect the children from any form of violence and abuse and neglect. And the Article 20 says children who cannot be looked after by their own family must be looked after properly by people who respect their religion, their culture, and their language. So, you know, when they remove your child from your care because of one thing or the other, the family or the parents cannot properly look after them, they will be matched and placed in a placement which match the child's need, where the child's religion is respected, the child's culture is respected, the child's language. All these factors are things taken into consideration when matching placement for children, so that they just don't remove the child from your care and just put him in another place where these factors are not considered. No. Thank you. Ooh, physical chastisement. Before we see the next slide, I just want your contributions, your views. What do you think this entails? We've already talked of physical abuse, so that should give you an idea. just examples of what physical chastisement entails. Some of the way in Africa, parents would chastise their children. The floor is open to anyone who wants to contribute, please. Hello.
One of the major ways in which children are abused by parents is the physical beating them, pulling their
That's it.
ears,
Oh, thank you.
making them to stand in some very strange positions,
That's it.
and just making their life difficult.
That's it. Just extra stress, stressing them, making them stand in uncomfortable positions, stressful positions, just to make life unbearable, uncomfortable for the child. Any more contributions, please, before we move on to the actual slide? I want you to tell me ways that we pull their ear. You can imagine, I don't know whether I've experienced that before when I was young. They say, you're stubborn, come here. And then they hold you by one ear, pull it. And that didn't stop me being naughty.
I think the other
was
one was
painful.
the other thing that they do is that they will conk your head, as they would say,
Yeah,
using
knock it, even, yes.
yes,
Make
as if they're knocking. They will tell you
yes.
that they're knocking sense into your head.
Exactly. Knocking sense into your head.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's the most interesting one. They'll hit your head
Yeah.
so hard, you hear something ringing in your ears, and you imagine, I mean, the impact.
You know,
How
and
can
these are
how can they knock
abuse.
sense in your head by doing that? I don't know. How
Well,
they knock sense in your
That
head
was
by
the way
doing
in
that?
which that's the way that they used to talk in those days. They would knock sense in.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. They would knock sense into your head and
Yeah.
pull your ears, as if to say to open your ears so that you will
That's
hear
it.
better. And then
it-
they might even use something to hit you. I remember my father would call that, this is what they call Dr. Do-Good, because when I hit you, it does you good.
Oh God. Thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
we're laughing about it now, but those are serious, issues. We're laughing about them now.
I
These are very serious
absolutely,
issues.
they were serious for me in those days too.
Yeah. Thank you. So, well, that's the question to everybody. You know what the answer is. What is beating good or bad for children? Just shout out your answers, good or bad. I don't know, but
I don't want to be
think it's
controversial, but
it's the severity of it that makes it bad.
I don't want to be controversial, but I guess it must have helped me in some ways. But no, it's not good.
It's the severity of it for me.
No, let's answer.
Yeah.
I want the answer is it good or bad? I want to hear good is good or is bad. I want the answer for this first.
It is bad.
I think it's quite an open question, so it shouldn't be left with closed answers. I think it's bad, obviously.
It's bad, yes.
Very bad.
If you leave marks on that child.
Yes, very bad.
If it's just a smack, and then just a smack, then that's okay. But not like hitting them hard and then leave mark on their body. That's definitely not good.
Yeah, Mr. Cisse, when you said if it's just a smack, but sometimes that smack, you can't measure it, your smack for the child might be severe. The child might, somebody said it's very bad. It's no. Thank you. Because that's just a smack for the child, because your hand is maybe twice the size of the child's hand. Your just a smack could be a bit of pressure on the child and it will hurt the child. So for me, I think that it's a no, like somebody just put in the chat box. It's very bad and it's a no. Regardless of whether it's just a mark or say, depending on what the child have done, let's not beat our children, because like someone, I think, was it EK just mentioned that for her, she's not trying to be a bit controversial, but she thinks it did her good. That's what we all said. It did us good in those days, but I don't think that if they put pressure on you, look at these stress positions, putting pressure on you. you lift an object in a very uncomfortable position. Lift one foot up, hand, stretch one arm forward, one hand back, one leg up, in very uncomfortable positions. And you think this is will do you good. It's just painful. It's just putting children under so much stress, pain, and agony. And when I leave, when you make me to do this and I walk away and you said, okay, now go to your room or go away. I think when you call me, I'll be so rude to you. Because I'm still in pain. I'm still really upset and angry, haven't gone through this. I would just, if you call me, I'll probably be cheeky. I'll just give you any rude answer or cheeky answer. You see, forgetting that we have provoked the child to react in that manner. I have put my child through all this stress, these emotions. Now, when I talk to my child, the child now is being provoked, will react violently, badly towards me. And then you say, how dare you talk to me like that? You don't talk to your parents like this. You don't talk to your mom like this. If mom you don't want your child to talk to you like that, don't treat them like this, then don't do this to them, because this is stressful, it's painful. Look at position 7 and 5. I mean, it's just awkward. I don't, and some people, some parents, you know, they will let you do this for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Look at position number 9. The child, and if you are doing it and you fall, they would ask you to start again. Then they start now timing you again. You're going to be in that position for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No, this is just too, it's wicked. It's not fair. Next slide, please. Now, we're on the right one. Discipline, physical chastisement. The UK law does not say that parents can use reasonable chastisement to control their children. It does say, it does say that parents can use reasonable chastisement to control their children as long as they do not use an implement or leave a mark on the child's body. You know, back home, your parents would, anything they lay their hand on, pa, pa, pa. It could be slippers, it could be cane, it could be the ladle, anything, belt, shoe, the broomstick, anything. They lay their hands on it, you are getting it. Papa. Next one, please. Now, it breaches the universal human right to protect children from violence. You know, when you are disciplining them harshly like this, you are breaching their human rights. Children have a right as individuals. Why? Who are we as parents to let them undergo such strenuous activities in the name of discipline, when in actual fact, we are not disciplining them, we are punishing them? It teaches children that violence is acceptable, that it is okay to use aggression to solve problems. So you are doing it and they think, okay, right, if you are doing that to me, that means it's good, it's right. So the abuse become abuser. Next time I would also do it to my children. Yeah, that's right, because my dad did it to me, my mom did it to me. It weakens the principles of zero tolerance of violence in the home. It weakens it. You know, when they say no violence, and yet you would be using harsh chastisement, harsh and cruel means to discipline a child, that means that the principle of zero tolerance of violence is being weakened. Beating children regularly can escalate challenging behavior and unacceptable level. You know, some children, they get too used to the beating that they don't care. They'll just tell you, after all, is it not just beating? I'm used to it. Every day I'm being smacked for everything. I get shouted at, I get told off, so I don't care. So I will do it anyway. I'm going to do it, which is wrong. We don't want them to be doing it. So why do we keep beating them? To stop them from carrying on and furthering this, we need to stop chastising them. It's cruel and it is wrong. We have to stop. reasonable chastisement can cause harm to children, which might not be detectable because of skin pigmentation of many African children. You know, our complexion, this thing, when you smack a child like that, sometimes you don't see it. Some children have been really smart. They've been chastised severely by their parents, but they've taken them to do medical examinations. But because of their skin complexion, the pigmentation on the skin, maybe they didn't see anything. They didn't get any result. And they think, oh yeah, the child was probably telling a lie. But it is true, sometimes we beat them, because if we don't beat our children, they won't go and be saying that they've been smart, which is unfortunate. We need to please try and stop smacking them. Let's help our children so that we can develop their emotional well-being. A child's peculiar vulnerability might cause an unaccepted reaction to reasonable chastisement. Example, a sickle child going into a sickle cell crisis, a state of that. You see, some children are very vulnerable, and your action, that severe smack and punishment can lead the child into, something else happening to the child, which is dangerous. I know of a parent, you know what, this one was not even smacking. You know, when your parents, you are naughty and they give you a pen and paper to write 100 lines, just write, I won't do this again, or they will give you some sentence and your mom or your dad, they ask you to write it 100 times. This child did that. The dad, it was a dad, he asked the child to write 100 times of lines. When the child went to school the following day, he said his hand was paining him, so he wouldn't do his work. He was sat there, and the teacher said, "Why are you not doing your work? Why are you not writing?" He said, "My hand is hurting me, it's paining." He said, "What happened to your hand?" Story. My dad asked me to write so and so 100 times in lines. That's it. That had to be questioned. That was called. That child was removed from the care of the parents. You see? Strenuous thing. They didn't smack, or no hitting, or no shouting. Writing. Write 100 lines. So we have to be very careful, parents. We have to be very, very cautious of the things we ask our children to do. It can be damaging to their health. It can be detrimental to their health.
But Loretta, it makes it very difficult to know what you can actually do to actually implement some sort of discipline to your child. Because I remember that I received those kind of instructions when I was young. Not only the beating, I also got the lines to write. You know, and you know very well that even in this case, this child may have been exaggerating it.
Yeah. So
what do you do? Because I can understand the frustration of parents. This child was not beaten. So what do you do? So
Ekenam, you know what? It depends on how many lines. You can ask a child to write lines. You know, when my boys were growing up, I said to them, I started school in a French school, and in the French school, we write, the cursive handwriting. You write and you join the letters, the words, the letters, you join it like that. So I bought a handwriting book for my boys. And I used to ask them in the house in the evening to write 1 page, just to learn how to write in the cursive, to have good handwriting, to improve their handwriting. Because I noticed that here in school, most children, their letters, the words and the letters, they don't join it, and it's 1, 1, 1, 1. And I just thought that it's nice when they can write using the joint handwriting. When my children did that for a week, you know what they told me? Mom, this is an abuse. And that 1 page, ask me how many lines was on a page. 6.
What?
6 lines. They just had to, the first one is on top. and then underneath is 6 lines. You have the green line, the blue, the green, red, green. So you write within those lines. So they had 6, and they say it was an abuse. I just put those books away. I said, right, stop writing them. If you think that is an abuse and that is going to hurt you, stop writing. My eldest son, his handwriting is beautiful as I'm talking. He has a very neat handwriting because he carried on and he used to do it at his own time. Even when I said, stop doing it. When you see my youngest son, the last one, his handwriting, oh my goodness. Sometimes you ask him to read for you what he has written. What he has written, is as if he's just scribbled it. You know, when you don't have time, you don't take time and just scribble something. And then he said, oh, this is how the doctors write. He's going to be a doctor in future. So it's the doctor's handwriting. He's writing like a doctor. Yeah, and that's, yes, you see, but for me, when they said, oh, this is an abuse, I asked them to stop writing. I didn't ask them to carry on writing again because I know what it means when they start going that line, telling you that it's an abuse. But if they want to do it themselves, they are fine, they can carry on. And like I said, it was only 6 lines, 1 page a day, and that was just 6 lines. But for them, 6 lines. So you can imagine a father who asked the son to write 100 lines, 100. But I think that was too much. You can do it, but there should be a limit. I mean, to some extent, 100 was too much. When these days, you know, boys, especially boys, they want to be on the game. They want to be with their friends. They want to be out there playing football, doing outdoor activities. And you sit that poor child behind the desk to write 100 lines. I think it was too much. So we just have to know our limit. Yeah. Okay. Have I answered your question, Ekena? Hello. Let's go on.
Sorry, yes, you have.
Loretta?
Yes, you have.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello.
Can I say something there?
Yes, please go on.
Yes. Sometimes we have to be creative in doing those things. I know my sister asked a question that, you know, she doesn't know what to do. We have to be creative. Look at what they like. Obviously, like me too, I have my 2 boys, okay? One of them was like into these fictional characters, you know, Star Wars and all those things, you know, very, very, you know, into it, you know, talk about, they're different characters, like different characters. So what I was doing then, I was getting those books, and then he kept reading them. You know, he likes the story, and then obviously, I'll just rewrite the story again in somewhere like in the book and all that, and that makes him develop the habit of writing. So we have to be creative.
Yeah.
In doing those things, we have to be very creative because that's something I enjoy. So he does it, you know, at his own will without no pressure at all.
Okay.
So we have to be creative.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time, so I'm going to be fast now. I'll skip through this quickly. Yeah, thank you very much. So please, yeah. So these are now just ways that as parents, we can help our parents to safeguard them and enhance their skills. We wouldn't leave you with no tips. We want you to be able to parent positively. So children imitate behavior. So we have to be very careful and mindful of the signals that we send out to our children. We should criticize the behavior, but not the child, and focus should be on what the child has done, not on the child's personality. Never compare children to one another, even if they are siblings. No one is too old to apologize. If they have made a genuine mistake, they should say sorry to the child. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Angry discipline is wrong discipline. Never discipline your child out of anger, frustration, or other negative emotions. If you are angry, take time, calm down before taking any actions. If a punishment is necessary, then the removal of privileges, time out, or natural consequences all work better than the smacking and the shouting or using abusive, interrogative language. If your child makes a disclosure or report any abuse or bullying, make sure you deal with it as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Develop a strong bond with your child. Involve them as much as possible in your life and be actively involved in their lives. Spend lots of positive time together with your children. Spend time at the end of each day to talk to your child, find out about their day in school, their experiences, and discuss any problem they may have. If you make any promises to your children, try and keep them. If you cannot, let them know why, so that they would understand you. Next one, please. We need to set boundaries from a very young age. When you begin when they are young, they will grow with it and they learn to stay with it. Not when they are old now, you start introducing boundaries and then they are out of control and you can't do anything again. Encourage your child to think for themselves and be their own person, but be firm about behaviors you find acceptable and those that you find unacceptable. Never ever call your child stupid, idiot, or use other derogatory or demeaning language. This is the best way to break their physique and destroy their self-esteem. Next one, please. Thank you very, very much. Any questions? We've run out of time, but I think it was worth it. We are 8 minutes late. So if you don't have any questions, please, we do have our evaluation form. The poll is out. I would like you to all to fill it in so that we know whether we are doing well or not, and we can amend things and improve our teaching for next time. Same time next week, Saturday next week, we will be having our usual parenting session. Next week will be the 18th, and I'm inviting all of you again. Please make sure you invite others and let them join us. Thank you all so much for joining, for your time, and for being with us today. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Ekenam. Thank you, Fatimata. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Sister Betta. Thank you, Mr. Cisse, Samali, and then Galaxy SC, I don't know who that is. Tamitoya, thank you. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Esinam, Vida Donko. Thank you all for joining, and do have a lovely evening. Thank you, Brother Timothy, for your thanks. Thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you. And do have a good evening. And I do appreciate all of you for being part of it and for your contributions. Mr. Cisse, you really, really did a good impact, and you are welcome next time to be part of this section again. Thank you all. Fatimata, thank you, and bye-bye.
Always welcome.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.